Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, June 12th, 2014 meeting of the Sac Metro Fire District Board. And we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replayed on Saturday, June 14th, 2014 at 1 p.m. and Monday, June 16th, 2014 at 6 p.m. on Channel 14, webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session meeting is also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Public opportunities to discuss matters of public interest within the jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda, are provided. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There's one speaker this evening, Mr. Roger Mitchell.
Board Chairman Ozali, board members, Chief Hinkie, staff of Metro Fire, and the men and women of Metro Fire. My name is Roger Mitchell, retired officer from this great fire district, and I'm here tonight to tell you about the event that we held at Old Station 111. We called it the Blessing of the Pump. As you know, we have finished the restoration of the pump for Rio Linda's second ever fire engine, and we held an event at Station 111, and I would certainly like to tell you of some of the people from this district that volunteered their time to make this event just a great event. Kevin Snyder, the chaplain for this district, donated his time and presence to do the blessing of the pump, and we thank him very much. Fred Buno, the shop foreman, loaned us a bell to use in the ceremony, also let us borrow a reserve truck to hang the American flag in front of the station. One of the master mechanics, Mr. Scott Courtney, volunteered his time to bring the truck to us, stayed with the truck in case it would ever be needed that your first-in apparatus would go down. He was there to facilitate getting that into service, so we thank him. Mr. Terry Barnes, one of your reserves that I don't know if his job officially is to take care of Rio Linda's Old Betsy, that's first truck, but he does a great job of doing that and sees that it's every one of our events, and it was there, and it's a proud state as always. Rob Driver, one of your reserve firemen, who's always at our events that helps, was there. It helped with the event from start to finish. Mark Siebert, a reserve person, but also works in your logistics department. Is always at our events to help, and we thank Mark. Our director and his charming wife are at all of our events, from the time that we need help cooking and working in the kitchen to I watch his wife with amazement. She helps us clean up at the end, so we thank Director Monk and his wife. Roberta McGlashan was there. And we had a ceremony with the bell that we rang the bell 3 different times, 3 times each. Roberta McGlashan did one set of 3. Bob Bastian, a director for Sac Metro Fire who supports this project, did the other 3. And the final 3 were done by our director, Director Gary Monk. So in saying that, I would like to thank this district for, you always participate in our events. The employees always participate. And as always, this is, I think, a restoration, you might say, of an engine in a firehouse with a lot of love and passion from a lot of people, but certainly without the volunteers and help we received from this department. I won't say that it couldn't be done, but it would sure be a lot tougher. So we thank you very much for that, and certainly would answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Chairman, I would move we approve the consent agenda.
And I'll be glad to
I
say.
have a motion and a second. Would clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Abstain.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Orzali?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Moving into the action items. First item is the tax assessment refund. Ms. McFarland?
Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ron Empedrad, controller for the district, and I'm here to report on the special fire tax and levy for the district. Last year, the district's management reported to the board the results of an internal review of the boundary of the Rancho Murrieta Slough House tax levy area. And as a result of that review, it identified a clerical error that resulted in taxes being levied in error on certain parcels that are outside the boundary of the tax assessment area. And this was levied from fiscal year 2005-06 all the way to fiscal year 2012-13. The board then authorized the district's management to refund the maximum amount of the assessments that were paid or collected in error, subject to the limits put by the state law. At that time, state law requires or only allows us to pay up to 4 years from the date the taxes were paid. So in our case, we were only able to refund from fiscal years 2009-10 all the way to fiscal years 2012-13, but not the earlier years. Then on May 29, 2014, Governor Jerry Brown signed AB 1053, which was authored by Assemblyman Ken Cooley and sponsored by Metro Fire. And this AB 1053 allowed us to refund the earlier years. So management is now recommending that we do a second round of refunds for these earlier fiscal years. And if approved, the fiscal impact would be about $1.22 million, which will includes administrative fees and will be coming out of the operating reserves of the district. If approved, the refund will happen will be done in two groups. The first group being any property owner who already filed for a refund in the first round of refunds will get a check automatically based on based on the county records and if they're eligible for those earlier years. The second group would be for property owners who have never filed for the first round. We will be sending them out letters and they would file a claim form for those 8 years if eligible, and then we will be refunding those claims as they come in. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can I just add one thing? Sure. Okay. Rhonda McFarland, Chief Financial Officer. I'll just mention on AB 1053, there is a timeframe that we're allowed to do the extra refunds, the extra 4 years, and that's through December 31st of 2014.
Questions?
Well, I know this has been said before, but I would like to extend Metro thank you to Assemblymember Cooley for sponsoring this bill with the urgency legislation and getting it done so that we can make everybody whole in the district. So thank you, Mr. Cooley.
So no further questions, then we have a motion.
I'll move that we follow staff's recommendation and make the refunds.
I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Orzali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for all of your work on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that for those people who's watching this telecast, there will be a homeowners meeting at Anatolia Clubhouse on July 8th, and it will be attended by Assemblyman Ken Cooley and a representative from the district who will discuss how they can file for a claim and assist them in filling out the forms. So that's July 8th at Anatolia Clubhouse, starting at, I believe it's 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Moving then to item 2, purchasing and contracting policy.
Good evening, Directors and Chief Hinkie. Mark Jones, I'm the Logistics and Purchasing Manager. On April 24th of this year, we brought before the Policy Committee a draft of proposed changes to the current purchasing and contracting policy. Before you is a draft of the changes to this current policy, highlighted in yellow, and the final version of the policy being submitted. The Policy Committee reviewed staff's recommendations and agreed that the changes were long overdue on our procedures and dollar limits. The last revision of this policy was done in 2006, and as you're aware, the district has experienced a reduction in administration staff. The purchasing division, not unlike the rest of the district's administration staff, is extremely busy with the growth of the district in all areas of business. It's becoming more challenging to provide the professional level of procurement service to all the divisions and the public. Last year, we processed 2,145 purchase orders, 233 informal bids, and 24 formal bids. We're always seeking ways to streamline our work, and some of the key items have been identified to the district. Currently, there's 2 staff members in the purchasing division, myself and my accounting specialist, Matt Davies, and we handle $20 million in procurements for the district. What we're proposing is to raise the purchase order threshold from $500 to $1,000. Last year, about half of the 2,000 purchase orders were under $1,000, so that'll greatly relieve a little bit of pressure from staff having to put in requisitions for purchase orders. And routine dollar amounts being insignificant, allowing staff to focus more on their important matters. We're proposing to raise a formal bid threshold from $35,000 to $100,000. The formal bidding process is very labor-intensive, and staff needs to focus more energy on purchases for goods and services on higher dollar procurements. The formal bid process adds several weeks and sometimes even months to be able to procure items. Staff will benefit from this limit increase, as they'll no longer need to take valuable time away from their core duties to evaluate proposals for lower dollar purchases. Our current construction formal bidding threshold is at $10,000. There have been so many small projects the district has done between $10,000 and $45,000 that routine things such as concrete work, roof repairs, HVAC repairs. It's just real hard to go through the process of getting all those things done. So we propose to have an informal bid required at $45,000, between $45,000 and $100,000, and a formal bid required above $100,000. In order to do this, the district will have to adopt by resolution, which is next on the agenda, the Uniform Public Construction Act. The County of Sacramento just this year implemented this change. This act allows for all construction projects estimated under $45,000 to be done with our own personnel or through negotiations with any of the contractors on our pre-qualified contractor list. The act also allows for informal bid procedures for construction projects between $45,000 and $100,000. The district would need to notice the Construction Cost Accounting Commission's 9 surrounding builders exchange organizations, as well as our pre-qualified contractors. We'd be able to have informal negotiations for projects with any of these contractors ahead of time and during the submission times. This reduces change orders that always seem to happen after a contract has been signed. It's getting harder and harder to receive bids from contractors when we advertise them. Many times we brought before you an award where there were only 1 or 2 bids received, and this change will allow us to seek out contractors and have negotiations with them informally to thoroughly explain the scope of work. We're proposing to raise our informal bid amount for goods and services from $2,500 to $45,000 to keep in line with the $45,000 informal bid for construction for the same reasons already stated. The dollar limit at $2,500 just really hinders staff in making easy, simple purchases. A good example is with our fleet department. If you can imagine, many repairs for fire apparatus are over $2,000, and most of their repairs, their routine repairs, are between $2,000 and $45,000. By increasing these thresholds, this will not only allow all the other division staff to concentrate on their core jobs, but allow the purchasing division more time to focus on contract administration, proposal developments, service agreements, and construction project proposals. Senior staff is involved in many administration projects with other public and private agencies requiring different consultants for these special services. Senior staff already needs to have the ability to seek out consultants for ongoing projects, and staff's requesting that only formal requests for qualifications for consulting service to be required. In other words, agreements and contracts for consulting services under $100,000 can be negotiated informally. They can seek out the people, they can get with the subject matter experts, they can contact other agencies to see who they're dealing with. This will allow leeway in the execution of contracts and speed up the award process and increase efficiencies in selecting the person or firm that best meets the needs of the district. Any special service agreement or contract over $100,000, keeping in line with those same numbers, will need to go through the formal bid process and be recommended to the board for approval. During the last few years, the district has gone through some internal audits and as a result has been presented with some findings. The finance division has worked diligently to correct a lot of these findings, actually correct all of the findings, and they've received a positive report over the last year or two. So with that, we recommend to the full board to adopt the attached purchasing and contracting policy, which has been reviewed and approved by the policy committee.
Please, Director Scheidegger.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm the only member of the policy committee here tonight. And I just wanted to mention that the policy committee did review this in considerable detail. We discussed it, asked a lot of questions. I think it's a good move. I think it's efficient in terms of realizing today's standards and doing the elevations as necessary. So there will be some staff savings. It is consistent with other local governmental agencies. I think that's important to note. And we're going to talk about the Uniform Construction Cost Accounting System in more detail later. It's consistent with that. And we did at the policy committee discuss assurances will be left in place in terms of relationships with vendors and kickbacks and things like that. I think the policy committee was very satisfied with these proposals, and at the appropriate time, I'd like to move that we adopt the recommendation as policy.
Thank you. Director Monk,
That's me.
at you.
Yeah, I've got a question. Are the requirements for single source vendor still applicable under this, or we have a different?
Yes. And explain a little bit more what you mean by that.
If there's only one vendor that can provide whatever service that we're contracting out for.
Right. However, purchasing, with every request that comes in like that, we'll still evaluate their single source request to make sure that there's not another company that does the same thing out there. So we're still going to be involved. We're just not going to take a division manager's word for it that this is a sole source or single source, or so we'll check into that.
Yeah, they're just additional paperwork
Right,
requirements.
right.
And then on page 26 of our package, your number 11 on conflict of interest, says the chief's designee or board of directors shall ensure that any purchase of any personal property or special service shall be in compliance with the government code section 87-100, et cetera, pertaining to conflict of interest. Does the district have a conflict of interest policy?
We do, and in fact, we will be reporting on that at not this meeting, but the next meeting. Our clerk will be updating the board on our conflict of interest in our Form 700s, the fact that we review it every even year and that we revisit it and make sure that it is accurate and up to date. And so the whole board, that was already on the agenda for us to present to the board of directors. And as regards as conflict of interest, let me be exceedingly clear, really for the people out there that are watching. This district, unlike a lot of governmental agencies, does not go out and accept dinners or lunches with vendors. And I can give you an example. I'm basically on the do not patronize list when I traveled to the Metro Chiefs, which is an international conference with some of the largest manufacturers from all over the world of equipment that want to take people out for a special dinner just to say hello. The answer for us is no. I can tell you when we receive those invitations, they're rejected, and that is a policy that drifts all the way down through the staff. So the bottom line is we're very, very sensitive to that. And the reason that that's important is this. At a high level in an administration, it could be very easy to have dinner with somebody or have them buy you dinner, and you not even know that you're purchasing product from them a year down the road or 2 years down the road. And even the perception that that's there is not acceptable. So I want to reassure the board of directors that that's been the way this administration has functioned over the last several years since I've been there.
Okay, if I could get a copy of that, Chief, I'd appreciate it.
Other questions?
Yes, if I may.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jones, I'm looking at where you discussed that the district, that the new policy will allow work to be done by district personnel or by negotiated contract for projects up to $45,000.
Correct.
Okay, the way I understand it, prevailing wages are triggered below that level?
Yes, everything from, I believe it's even $1,000 and more has to be prevailing. Might be 5,000, but I believe it's 1,000 above has to be prevailing wages, and that will be continued.
Okay, but my question is, how do we deal with that when our own forces are repairing the sidewalk that, you know, runs from where the garbage cans are kept to the
What we have to do is we have to track every single, everything having to do with that project that the district does has to be tracked. Whether it comes down to if we have to rent a tool, if we have to drive to pick up the equipment.
But what I'm getting towards is not so much the expenses that are incurred, but you know what, you're taking work away from a construction worker by having our guys do it. You know what I mean? And prevailing wages are intended to protect that construction worker and make sure that he's doing the work and not an off-duty firefighter. So that's where I'm thinking that there may be, you may have to be careful about how you do that. Because now you've got six firefighters that are going to be doing this work. Where are the prevailing wages paid for the individuals that perform that work and are expected to be able to receive the benefits and the wages associated with that work?
The act allows any projects under $45,000, not above, to be a force account, which means that our own laborers can do that. That's all statewide. That's a state law. That's all statewide with this public
With
construction.
a public agency?
Right.
All right. Then, on the $100,000 level that you said you were able to sole source up to that point, does that, am I missing something?
Yes. We're not able to sole source anything.
No, okay.
As far as construction goes.
But it changes, and I'll look at it again, it changes from the formal bidding threshold, so you don't have to formally bid
Until it reaches 100,000.
items that are less than $100,000.
Correct. You have to notify the Builders Exchange, the nine agencies that the Builders Exchange have in our area. We have to notify them and our vendor list that we have. We have to put an informal bid out to them, but then we can negotiate with them. Whereas anything over 100, it's still prevailing wage. Anything over 100,000, we have to take the low bidder.
But now, state bidding requirements, $100,000 is the threshold now.
It's actually 175,000 if they've adopted the act. The county of Sacramento is at 100,000. We're going to be in line with the county and not go above them. So everything will mirror what the county of Sacramento does.
Okay, all right, just wanted you to be aware of those things. Those were the issues that I was concerned
Great.
about.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Further comments?
Yeah, other than that, the questions, I think, the policy committee did a good job on this issue. I want to thank them for that. Good job.
And with that, we have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Rosali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving then to item 3, the resolution to adopt the Uniform Public Construction Costs Accounting Procedures.
In order to adopt this act, we have to have a resolution signed and submit that to the controller, State of California Controller. So what we're asking is that the district will, since you already kind of have, with the going in conjunction, this allows local agencies to support, just as I said, allows the local agencies to perform public project work up to $45,000 with their own workforces or by negotiated contract. Any local agency can voluntarily elect to do this. We are electing to do this so we can raise our thresholds and negotiate better with contractors and try to get more people involved in the projects that we want to do. So recommendation is to adopt and implement the Uniform Public Cost Accounting procedures set forth in the Uniform Public Cost Accounting Act.
Okay? Questions, comments? Seeing none.
We adopted.
I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Rosali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Moving into item 4, disclosure of materials expenditure and commercial insurance.
Good evening, directors, Chief Hinkie. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Brad Svenningson. Mr. Svenningson is from Wells Fargo Insurances, and as you will recall, the last 20-plus years, I believe, Pete Keller had been our insurance broker with Wells Fargo, and he has decided to venture off into the sunset and enjoy his retirement. And so Brad is well seasoned in the industry, been with the predecessor company in Wells Fargo for as long as I've been in the fire service, 20-plus years, and so we're very happy to have him as our new insurance broker. And so tonight, I believe we're going to be speaking on a number of different insurances tonight as a normal part of our annual renewals for the next coming budget cycle. So the first one tonight would be the disclosure of material expenditure for commercial insurance. And for Special District Risk Management Authority to the amount of $421,848.47. And background on this is basically the commercial insurance package incorporates all the areas of property, automobile, and general liability insurance for us. And under the general liability, it encompasses the employment practices, employment benefits, and management of our liability, or management liability. So in that process, and of course, you know, Mr. Svenningson is the expert, he went out and got 5 different bids, and SDRMA was the most responsive bidder. It should be noted they were $6,117 less than they were last year. And then in your package is the summary of Fireman's Fund with no bid, Philadelphia with no bid, VFIS and ESIP had no bid, although they're interested in next year quoting us for a rate. So tonight, I would like to, the fiscal impact of this is, like I said, $6,117 less than last year. It's within our current budget that we're anticipating for next year. And our recommendation would be to enter into this this amount with SDRMA. So, and if you have any specific questions about that, we'll answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Chief, I'm thankful that we're paying less than we did last year, but still, it's like we don't have a check number. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know how many insurance companies write these policies. You've got 3 here that aren't interested or otherwise. But I would think that maybe we would have kept looking and tried to find at least some others to compare against SDRMA and see where we were going. But like I say, it's less than last year, and I think it's the only one that was less than last year that we're looking at tonight, so.
Yeah, thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, welcome.
SDRMA is, just a little history. VFIS insured you back in 2005, and they non-renewed you. And SDRMA came to the rescue. They were at about $571,000 in '06 and have consistently dropped the premium every year. And your exposure actually has not gone down. It has gone up. The only 2 markets really that will play ball are going to be VFIS and ESIP. I received indications from them, and it's just, you're in a good place right now. And one of the things that I do as a broker is just to make sure that I manage your expectations, make sure it's in the budget, make sure that everything seems to make place. Anyway, that's my response.
Be happy with SDRMA.
Yeah.
I got the message.
Well, and in all candor, and a lot of the, we've been dealing with SDRMA for a number of years. In fact, the 5 years that I've been in this position, and been exceedingly comfortable with the relationship.
Okay.
And in the vacuum of no other bidding, I'm very comfortable with continuing our relationship with them at the price.
Good. Mr. Chairman?
Please.
I'm kind of interested in, like, VFIS and ESIP. They're interested in bidding, I mean, in quoting next year. Why not this year? What's wrong with, what can they do with this?
Well, again, their pricing was going to be over that $500,000 mark. We can go through the exercise to get that exact number, but I'm not quite sure that's in the best interest of anyone's resources.
Right.
So I did meet with VFIS on Monday, and we kind of talked about our game plan for next year. So we've kind of started the process, and it's an ongoing deal. It's something that takes kind of a 6-month process to really fine-tune the pricing.
Thank you.
Please, Director Scheidegger.
Thank you. I'm sure this is a minor question, but it says 5 firms responded, there are only 4 listed. Am I missing something?
You know what? Well, I had the same question myself. Thank you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
thanks for that. Was
Chief, you're
almost a
very astute.
softball. Actually, at the end there, the VFIS and ESIP are actually 2
Oh,
separate.
those, I see. I thought they were combined
yeah.
as one, but
No,
it's
in
2
fact,
separate. Okay.
so theoretically, we could have had another column on there. There were 5, a total of 5.
Okay, thank you. Another softball.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
I
I
have a
move
motion.
staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second? And would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
All right.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark? Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Orzali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving then to item 5, the disclosure of materials expenditure, excess workers' compensation insurance. Chief Wells.
Yes, same cast of characters here for the next number of items. Yes, this one is expenditure for excess workers' compensation and for Safety National Casualty Corporation, the amount of $377,466. And basically what this coverage does for us, it's additional insurance above and beyond for a catastrophic workers' comp loss that would occur in excess of our self-insured retention, which is essentially our deductible. Which would pay over and above a retention rate of $3 million per occurrence. And it's consistent with what we did last year. There's obviously whatever your deductible would be, and we put a certain amount of money into the reserve for a workers' comp catastrophic issue. And as an occurrence, and Mr. Svenningson could tell you more about it, but the reality is that we have a dangerous business, and if you had an occurrence, it could take theoretically more than one person or thing at a time. And so our exposure on one occurrence could be extremely high. And so some of the bidding in your packet here, you'll see like in the New York Marine in general, they actually have a cap in there of 500 or 50 million. Their deductible would have been lower for us, but at some point you would have a cap. And the significant exposure on some of these issues, you can imagine a large commercial structure fire with 9 guys on the roof. We don't like to think in those terms, but for insurance, you sure need to. And so that would be something that we need to make sure that whatever we're buying is the most responsive policy. And so in this particular case, with this SIR of 3 million chosen, they were the most responsive bidder for a total package. Safety National at $377,466. It should be noted it's an increase of 9.5% from the premium of last year. We do anticipate these rates going up every year. I believe it's gone up every year previous.
Is there any rationale given as to why?
Not that I can give you.
Twofold. For your industry, the drought, it gives the insurance companies an excuse to say that you're going to be working harder and longer this year. That's one. The pat answer is medical costs continue to rise. Those are the two reasons. We did get one other indication that is lower. I don't want to step on anyone's feet, but it's pretty obvious that the program with Safety National and the way they consider an occurrence. For an example, if you send a team down to San Diego for 10 days to fight a fire, that is one occurrence. That's pretty huge versus New York will consider every 24 hours a separate occurrence. It's not as good a coverage. It's not apples and apples. So unfortunately, 9.5%. Last year it was 13.1%. The year before that it was 9%. So it's consistently been going up. Sorry.
But it actually even makes sense in all the other analysis that we do, that we show our run volumes going up, our structure fires are going up, our risk goes up. It's a 24-hour-a-day operation, but if you're putting more miles on your vehicles and subsequently more incidents, then you have more exposure on a workers' comp perspective.
Mr. Chairman, I would move staff's recommendation and approve the expenditure for excess workers' compensation.
I have a motion. And a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Rosali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving into item 7, disclosure of materials expenditure, insurance brokerage services.
Don't you have
Chief
aviation?
Wells.
You know what, I think we have one before that, is the
Oh.
aviation liability insurance.
I'm sorry.
We can-
We're at item 6,
Yes.
disclosure of materials expenditure, I'm sorry. Aviation liability insurance.
Yes, and this one is a little more, more happy talk with insurance here. This one is in regards to 2 helicopters that we own, and also we actually have a 1972 Boeing 727 aircraft that we all know about that was donated for not flying purposes, but for training purposes, and there's an associated liability with that. This particular package, Mr. Svenningsson has been able to put it all together, and we're looking at a Westchester Fire Insurance Company of $87,027. And it's really, it's all been encompassed from last year with just 2 holes on the aircraft to a $10 million bodily injury and property damage and a premise liability for the other aircraft. So, and it covers the pilots and anybody the chief pilot or designee is associated in connection with the operation of the helicopter. And so we had 6 firms that actually bid on this, and the $87,000 was the cheapest of the responsive bidders. And I believe the insurance is exactly the same for the helicopters. The increase is due to the aircraft, the fixed wing. So it's well in advance of our budget last year, or this year we were estimating, because we put our preliminary budgets in and we literally get these numbers a couple of weeks in advance. So it's about $5,000 difference of what we were anticipating in next year's budget, but we can make the necessary adjustments and it will be within our normal budget for next year. So if you have any questions on that, our recommendation would be to go with Ace Westchester Fire Insurance Company for the purchase of aviation liability insurance for the $87,027.
There's a question, Director Wood.
Chief, I have a question. On the 727 coverage, when that aircraft is ultimately put into use at the USAR training facility, and if, as I've seen the mock-ups, if it's disassembled and used for USAR, will that coverage be taken off and put into something else, or will we still need coverage for the hull if it's in pieces?
Yeah, well, and I'll let the fire chief dive in here first.
Yeah, as soon as that, right now, it's Metro Fires because, everybody wants to donate stuff to us. We're going to be moving it here in the next few months, I believe, from there to Zinfandel. And then once it gets there and it's put into that, it's really going to be the JPA's responsibility and USAR and that to get it. So this is kind of a intermediary. It's out at Mathron, their airport. If something happens out there, it's our aircraft. We're responsible for it. So I believe this is a short-term issue. Once it's cut up and put on the ground, we have insurances and workers' comp, and I think Mr. Davis is in the audience, that covers the JPA and stuff like that for all that. So this is that intermediary step.
So it's not a long-term obligation of
No.
ours? Thank you.
I have a question. It's really amazing, the difference. This W. Brown and Associates, I wonder what they were looking at, that they're so far out in the stratosphere. I mean, with this big, can you?
Probably shouldn't even have put it down. It's be an indication there, but they did give us a number. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Were
think
they
hopeful that-
serious at all? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
They're just possibly hopeful that maybe that your current carrier happened to get off by the time I sent them the application, and they quoted, so.
Okay, yeah, it's just remarkable. I mean, it's.
No, that's insurance.
Yeah.
Further questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we accept staff's recommendation on the aviation liability insurance.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Rorzali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving now to item 7.
Yeah, this one, I'm sorry.
Go, please.
This is for the disclosure of material expenditure for insurance brokerage services to Wells Fargo Insurance Services for $40,000. One thing I'd like to note is it has always been $40,000 from when, previous to me, but I know in the last 5 years it was $40,000. They have not increased their fees on us, unlike everybody else. And so tonight, if Brad could certainly comment on any questions on why that's the rate, but we're authorizing the approval of expending $40,000 for the Wells Fargo insurance.
Chairman, I would move the recommendation. It's a good time in TJ. It's cheap, but it's not free.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
And Rorzali?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving now to item 8, disclosure of materials expenditure. Chief Wells.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, this one is actually fiduciary liability insurance. It is something that came before this board last year. I believe it was a 9-month policy that we had, went through a long process. It was a difficult one to actually couple the right type of insurance for what we were looking for. What it does is it protects the fiduciaries of the fire district, including the board members, the deferred compensation committee members, and management. The deferred comp plan has assets in excess of $76 million and an active deferred compensation committee focused on fiduciary compliance. All the carriers proposing will cover the deferred comp plan, and RLI is the coverage including all benefit plans except CalPERS plans for an annual premium of $14,765. And also, this one is a savings of $2,570 from last year. And it isn't just because we're paying, it was a shortened period last year, but Mr. Sveninson spread it out and amortized it over time, so it's still actually an actual savings in the plan. So our recommendation would be to authorize the payment of $14,765 to RLI Insurance for the purchase of fiduciary liability insurance.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the expenditure of the funds for the fiduciary insurance.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
I have a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
And Rosali.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving then to item 9, disclosure of materials expenditure, and I wonder if Chief Wells would address this.
I would be glad to, thank you.
Thank you.
This is about the storage tank pollution liability. We're recommending that it would be Ace Illinois Union Insurance Company for the amount of $4,429. They were actually, they were the lowest, most responsive carrier, and it should be noted that it is an increase of $293 from over last year. And the reason for that is because our equipment's getting older. And it is above ground, and it is obviously visible, but theoretically older and more subject or prone to leaking or other issues. So at this time, it's an increase of $293. However, it's going to be within our normal budget limits, and we would recommend the $4,429 to Ace Illinois Union Insurance Company for storage tank pollution liability insurance.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the recommendation and ask the question, do we have any underground tanks?
No, I believe they're all above ground.
Great. Okay.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Monk.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
And Rosali.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And, Mr. President, that sets the record for the one individual, Chief Wells, who presents the most action items in a meeting, I believe.
And I'd like to go on record as hoping that that is the record that's never broken. Moving then to presentations. Ms. McFarland with property tax trends and budget projections.
Good evening. Rhonda McFarland, Chief Financial Officer. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our consultant, Nicole Cohn from HDL. She has expertise from her many years of experience in property tax trends and budgeting, and works for just a large number of agencies up and down the state. And she has done just an excellent job of helping us determine the amounts to put in our budget ever since we hired her back in 2012. And so I'll just let Nicole come forward, and she has a PowerPoint and is going to talk to you about what's going on with the largest percentage of our budget. That our revenue is about 80% of our budget. So here we go.
Thanks, Rhonda. Good evening, members of the board, Chief Henke, and staff. I've been asked to come here today to talk to you a little bit about the property tax trends that we're seeing and how we expect that to impact upcoming budgets. There are a variety of factors impacting the 2014-15 property tax growth. They are sales during calendar year 2013, ongoing appeals, additional Prop 8 reductions, California Consumer Price Index growth, and Proposition 8 recaptures of previously reduced parcels. As most of you have probably either seen or read, property values and sale prices shot through the roof in 2013, both in volume, meaning number of sales, and in the prices that the increase in prices. For that reason, $587 million in assessed value will be added for 2014-15 due to those transfers in 2013. That's the most value added in any year from sales since 2007-8. And it's important to note that in many of those years between 2007-8 and the current year, all the sales on all the parcels in the entire district actually took value away from the rolls. And the single-family median prices were up 34% during that 2013 timeframe. Now, even though the prices are up, the current prices are still quite a bit off that peak that we experienced. The district's peak was in 2005, with a single-family residential home selling for $349,000. The lowest median occurred in 2011 at $145,000, and the current median is $210,000, and that's still 40% off that peak that occurred back in 2005. Just something to note is that the market has cooled over the past 3 quarters. So fourth quarter 2013 and first and second quarters so far in 2014, we're seeing a slowdown both in sale volume and in sale price, meaning it's not going down, but it's flattening out. And for that reason, we expect that similar growth for 2015-16, which is what's the 2014 sales are attributed to, will probably not be equal to what we're seeing. The spring and summer months tend to be really big months for sales, so we'll have to keep an eye on it and see. But so far, it doesn't seem like it's going to turn out the same as the current year. I've included the comparison of the current median price to the peak median price here for every city in the county and for the entire county as a whole. The county as a whole is off 36%. As I said on the prior slide, you're off about 40% from that peak. And you can see that Rancho Cordova and Citrus Heights are off 45 and 35% respectively. So you can kind of see how you fit in to the 40% there. I included this slide in my presentation last year, and the percentage off peak has improved by about 10% across the board. It was in the high 50s to high 40s in that range this time last year. And while we're seeing that percent off peak, there's a phenomenon that's not really being talked about, and so I wanted to include it in the slide, and I took 2 specific parcels in the district. The blue line is a parcel that was built in 2005, a home that was built in 2005, and the red is a home that was built in the 1970s. So the blue line, that home was built and sold at the height of the market, and if it had the current CPI applied to it, as if the downturn had never occurred, its assessed value for taxation would be about $404,000. But the downturn did occur, and the assessor reduced the assessed value on that parcel to about $196,000. And the difference between those 2 price values would be able to be recaptured per Prop 8 had the person not turned around and sold it because they were underwater. And so they sold it for $180,000. Now the person who purchased that home, if they stay there and don't sell it, it would take 42 years for it to get back to that peak value. And the 1970s house in the red line, it's not as significant a difference because its original price wasn't as high, but you're talking about 10 years. So it's just something that I wanted to show because it's not something that most people really understand, that there's this loss that, and if those people keep those houses, it's not going to be regained. Ongoing appeals are another thing. There's a lot of appeals outstanding because of the downturn, and it takes a while for the county staff to really get through those. $179.7 million, or $395,000 in revenue, has been reduced due to successful appeals in the last year. There are still 162 outstanding appeals in the district. They have a current value of $3.8 billion and an owner's opinion value, meaning what the owner puts down saying that they think their value is, of $1.6 billion, so a little less than half. And it's an important note that Aerojet and Exojet both have large outstanding appeals going back to about 2008. That because of the uniqueness of those properties, it's taking the county a long time to make a determination. Those value reductions are likely at some point soon. It can't go on forever. And reductions at a worst case, 50%, would result in revenue losses of $345,000 in the year of the reduction. Going forward annually. And in the year of the reduction, for all the prior years, they're going to reduce them all and refund them in a single year. That would result in a $550,000 loss as a result of the refund. We have additional Prop 8 reductions. It's not great news, but if you look historically about what the reductions have been under Prop 8 in the most recent years, you're talking $376 million when you compare it to 2 or 3 years ago in the $900 million range. And my guess is they don't give us any specifics on those parcels, that they're most likely non-residential, because the residential have come back so much, it's not really warranted, or at least single-family residential, so. The California Consumer Price Index is measured for the purposes of property tax increases from October of the prior year to October, so October 2012 to October 2013. And that CPI increase was 0.454%, so roughly a half of a percentage point. Now, Prop 13 says either the CPI or 2%, whichever is less, is what gets added to those parcels that are not in the Prop 8 pool. And there are about 70% of the parcels that are not in the Prop 8 pool currently. That's improving. The growth in the CPI will contribute 1/4 less value to the district in 2014-15 than it did for 2013-14, where the CPI was 2. So the growth that we estimate is $157 million, or $345,000 in district revenue. Proposition 8 recaptures is the thing that a lot of people are talking about, and it's the bright point and what's adding to the majority of your growth. And there's currently $8.1 billion of outstanding reduced value waiting to be recaptured. That's equal to $17.8 million in district revenue. Now, due to increases in residential sale prices in 2013, as I said, we expect quite a few recaptures for the 2014-15 year. Recaptured value will also come from non-residential sources that have grown in different ways. Total value added to Prop 8 recaptures is not known until the roll is released with any certainty, but our best estimate, using data available from the assessor, who's actually very good at communicating with the agencies, and from our data that we have in-house, an additional $2.1 billion in assessed value, or approximately $4.1 million in revenue, is expected to be added for 2014-15 due to increases of previously reduced parcels. So we put all those numbers from all the prior slides into our revenue estimate, and we come up with a 4.59% growth, or about $116.9 million in property tax revenue. Now, this covers secured, unsecured, and homeowners exemption revenue. That's the majority of the revenue that comes in for the district. But there are some other revenue sources that are driven off a different value pool, and I thought I should mention those. And they're refunds and supplemental apportionments. Refunds, like a successful appeal, are approved every day. So refunds are approved, and they happen in the middle of the year. So the assessor's staff and the auditor's staff put all those refunds in one pot. So if a refund occurs in Folsom or in the city of Sacramento outside the district shares in a portion of that refund based on their apportionment factor. And the district's apportionment factor is 9 cents. So for every refunded dollar in the whole entire county, the district shares in a portion of that refund to the tune of 9 cents. And the same can be said for supplementals, which are actually positive right now. If you purchase your home in the middle of the year, you get a prorated tax bill for the portion of the year that you own the home. And all of that goes into a pot also and gets apportioned also at 9 cents to the district. So it's really difficult to budget those sources because they're happening every single day. And ahead of time, there's no way to know how many homes will sell, how many appeals will be approved, and to what degree. So it's something that we work closely with the staff to try to get the best handle on that number. Does anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to add, Mr. President, if I
Please.
could. I think that one slide on those two houses said it all. And I don't know if we can get that back up, but it was the blue line and the red line. That is essentially what this district is facing. And so when people came down here and talked about the miraculous recovery that was coming, yeah, that slide right there, that's an example of what property tax-driven agencies are facing specifically here. Now, Mr. Campo can tell you that this picture is much different in the Bay Area, in Contra Costa County or San Francisco County or down in there. Property prices have already gone back up to 2006, 2007 levels, and of course the assessors there have popped those back up. But for us, a lot of these properties sold. And now they're at that rate of return is, potentially upwards of 42 years to recover that. So I think that's the important point that I want the taxpayer out there. And I think the gentleman, Ken Payne, who was the head of the Sacramento County Taxpayers Association, actually was spot on this. He said, this is what's happening. He has properties himself that were locked in this. And I only mention him because he is the head of the Taxpayers Association. So I think there's some credibility there, but he was spot on this is the problem that the district is facing. And so we will actually take this, and I'm going to ask to have him come in and do a presentation on this, same PowerPoint slide for some of those stakeholders out there so that they can see that the people were running around saying that the recovery was here. This is the actual reality of it. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Chief. Director Scheidegger.
Mr. Chairman, an excellent presentation. Thank you. This is important for us to understand and to comprehend it on an ongoing basis in terms of what's happening. Would it be possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint for us?
Of course. Yeah, Rhonda's got a copy, and I can print copies and send them if
We'll make sure that we get them to every board member.
I'd appreciate it.
That would be very useful. Thank you for this report. It's extremely well done.
Yeah.
Have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. We have a report, so that's moving. I get lost in this. Moving then to the President's report. There is no report for this evening. Moving on then to the Chief's report. Chief Hinkie.
It's with a great sense of sadness tonight that I would wish condolences to Engineer Koselny on the loss of his wife, Jessica, who passed away on Sunday, June 8th, of a illness. And the celebration of life for Jessica will be Saturday, June 14th from 1:15 to 5 p.m. Please arrive by 2 p.m. for a brief program presided over by family and loved ones. And it'll be at the Folsom Community Center, 52 Natoma Street, Folsom, California, 95630. Colorful attire is encouraged. Jessica would want you to show up in style, is what we were told. And in lieu of sending flowers, please consider donating to the Wig Out Foundation in honor of Jessica Finsley Koselny. So with that, our thoughts and prayers are with Engineer Koselny and his family and his time of loss. We talked about AB 1053. I just want to comment on Assemblymember Cooley. We are, and I don't normally editorialize, but we are so lucky to have somebody that spent 20 years working in the legislature representing our district and our constituents. Talk about a job well done and getting a piece of legislation through the legislature in record time so that we could get the constituents in our district, their tax dollars refunded to them. I can't say that enough. He's also working on the GEMT bill for HMO component. It passed the Assembly 70-0. It passed every committee on consent, and it's getting ready to go through the same thing through the state Senate, which we anticipate will have the same results, and it's an urgency bill as well to bring new revenue into the district on that HMO component, which would be several $1 million more a year for our ambulance transport reimbursement. So Assemblymember Cooley, talk about having a first term success, and we've benefited from that, and our citizens have benefited from that. On a community wildfire protection plan update, the draft initial study of mitigated negative declaration, which is the CEQA compliant environmental review document, will be released tomorrow for a 30-day public comment period, which will end on July 14th. The board will receive a presentation on July 24th, where responses to comments received during the 30-day public comment period will be brought to the board of directors. Additionally, on the July 24th, the board will be asked to act on two separate issues. One, adopt the ISMND and certify that it has been prepared in compliance with CEQA and that it reflects the independent judgments of the district, and adopt and approve the community-wise CWPP plan. So that will be coming to you shortly. That was a grant that we received, and the staff has just done a tremendous job in working through that and through the Community Risk Reduction Division and all the people that have been participants in that. It's just been incredible. I attended the California Metro Fire Chiefs Service Delivery Summit, or will be on the 25th of this month, I should say. Now, this is going to be and unfortunately, it's on the same day we have a stakeholders meeting, but we are having some disputes in regards to a state agency that is providing fire protection and bidding municipal fire contracts throughout the state of California, and there seems to be some disagreement there as to that process. So we will be bringing together the CAL FIRE chiefs, the Metro chiefs, which I sit as a representative of both, CAL FIRE, Office of Emergency Services, special districts, and the League of Cities to have a summit to see if we can work through some of these issues and provide some stability in that realm as to who covers what in the state of California. Also, I attended last week the Metro Fire Chiefs Conference in Baltimore. I will tell you that this district is in great shape. It is cutting edge. When you go and sit with chiefs from around not just the U.S., but across the world. You had Hong Kong there, you had Great Britain there, you had Sweden there. And I will tell you that the most hugest impact was a presentation by Don Austin, the retired fire commissioner of the city of Detroit. And Don retired from the Los Angeles City Fire Department, and because he was born and raised in Detroit, went back there to help them through the bankruptcy and everything that happened. And he put on about a 2-hour presentation, and when he was done, you absolutely felt like $1 million racehorse in your organization after you saw what they have gone through and continue to go through in Detroit. And a lot of lessons there in regards to service delivery issues. But the other thing is we did present, or I presented the GEMT issue, and so that had a huge impact as well, and we will be working across the country on that issue, Chief Clough and myself, getting the information out so that they can, the other states can now start to engage. I can tell you that Las Vegas has already reached out and wants to bring their staff here for a 2-day meeting in regards to how the state of Nevada can get that GEMT off and running as well. And we're making sure that whatever we do, it's not at a cost to our district, that they will reimburse. And for the most part, make sure that if they want the information, they have to come here. We're not going to be traveling to any exotic places. So we've already had reach outs from Hawaii, Las Vegas, and I told them, if you want the information, you'll have to come here. We will not have the public perception, even though you're reimbursing of us traveling to any spots like that. Yesterday, we had the Rancho Cordova 2x2 meeting. Director Wood and Director Jones were at that. I thought it was great. They have a new city manager that'll be starting July 1st, I think it is, former city manager of Chico. And so we're looking forward to meeting that gentleman, and we briefed him on all the issues that we had been doing over the last several months. A reminder, June 28th is the Firefighter Burn Institute's Tropical Affair. And of course, last but not least, a reminder that July 15th through the 18th, Brenda Briggs and her staff and great volunteers will be doing fire camp. And we're excited that we're able to get it underway this year, especially with the drought conditions. And so we urge everybody to check out fire camp. It's always a great, great deal. As far as new hires, effective 5/27, Candace Solaris was hired as a human resources specialist. Effective June 9th, Shanna Momolsky, office technician in Community Risk Reduction Division. We also effectively 6/1 were able to reinstate Michael Assessi back to Fire Inspector 2 and Bobby Sestito, logistics technician. These are people that were caught up in those staff reductions back in 2009. And so they finally, this many years later, have been put back into their positions that they were involuntarily demoted from due to the downturn in the economy. We'd like to wish Engineer Roe Mitchell, who retired June 1st, 31 years of service, a great retirement. We'd also like to congratulate the 26 personnel who successfully completed the fire captain examination process and have been placed on the eligibility list. And congratulations to the 10 single-role paramedics who were successful in the oral interview exam process for firefighter paramedic and will be eligible to participate in the next fire academy. So we've got 10 more that will be going through, scheduled for September 2014. And that concludes my remarks this evening.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Chief Hinkie, Darren Taylor, Assistant Chief of Operations, A-Shift. Giving you tonight's operational briefing since the last board meeting on May 22nd. Metro Fire had a total of 5,730 calls. We had 25 working structure fires during those dispatches. We had 4,316 EMS dispatches. We transported 3,146 calls, which is a 72.9% transport rate. We attended and or took part of 47 public education events or community events. We had just shy or logged or documented just shy of 10,000 hours of training hours. As you probably heard above you, as of June 1st, we put the copter back into service in lieu of the wildland season declared by the state of California and Metro Fire. Chief Hinkie already mentioned the 26 successful candidates for the captain's exam, so we congratulate them. We are currently in the process of conducting our battalion chief promotional exam, and we have 21 candidates going through that process. We have 34 recruits in the fire academy, and we're hoping for all 34 recruits for their successful completion of that. And one of our own, Battalion Chief Eric Bridge, graduated from the Rancho Cordova Leadership Program. And as I say pretty much every board meeting, being the liaison for the floor to you as the board of directors as an operations chiefs, I'm very proud of the men and women of the calls and the stuff that they do every day out there on the line that we actually don't get to see and they live every day. And if there's any questions, everyone have a great night. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving into General Counsel's report.
No report.
Moving then to committees and delegates report. Oh, from firefighters, from 522 is there.
Good evening, Mike McGoldrick, Director Local 522. I would like to thank Chief Hinkie for reporting all my report out. The gala, of course, it's a great event for those of you who have attended. If not, we'd welcome you there. I'd like to also extend our condolences to TK and the successful candidates for both the single role to firefighter paramedic and the captain's eligibility list. Unless you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving into the committee and delegates report. The executive committee is scheduled, the next scheduled meeting is 26th of June. And then moving to the Communication Center's JPA.
Good evening, President Rosali, Director Scott Cocker. I'm Deputy Chief of Support Services. Since I last spoke with you, we've had a Communications Center regular meeting as well as a personnel meeting. The preliminary budget was presented to us, and for the 14-15 budget, their actual normal operating costs are going to remain the same for that. However, there will be one adjustment to that. We are anticipating bringing on a medical director full-time to the center, where in the past it's been a part-time position. An RFP is going out for a contracted medical director within the next 30 days, which will, in the second half, depending upon when we bring that person on and what that RFP brings back as a contract price, the second half will have an enhancement on their 14-15 on our fee of the adjustment. For the next, we're also presented a plan for the next several years. We did receive back the information for the CAT RFP, which we anticipate in putting into play within the next year or two, depending on how long it takes to implement. However, in the succeeding years, over the next several years, we will see some additional increases in costs over there. And those costs are going to go with not necessarily personnel, but however with capability. So the capabilities over there are going to increase significantly with GIS and with other technologies, and those technologies have ongoing maintenance and costs. So over the next 5 years, I would anticipate seeing about a 3 to 5% increase each year for those ongoing costs and technology costs. We also were briefed in a personnel that we have started negotiations with the two labor organizations that are in there. The labor negotiations are going well, and we'll anticipate seeing those wrapped up hopefully in the next month. They're going that well. And that'll conclude my report. The next meeting is June 24th. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Moving into the California Fire and Rescue Training JPA, Director Kelly.
Yes, the JPA was scheduled to meet earlier today. That meeting has been postponed and will be conducted via teleconference, or conference call, I should say, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you. Moving to the Finance Committee, Director Jones.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met this evening, and our CFO, McFarland, presented us with a lot of numbers and information. Some of the highlights were that we did receive $800,000 in our supplemental revenue from supplemental property tax. We had approximately, finally got reimbursed $500,000 from our previous deployments. And our medic revenue is up, and that's enhanced by the single role paramedics. Note of caution, though, with the year-to-date revenue, it shows that it's a 7% increase. However, a lot of that increase is due to one-time monies. And that's what everyone needs to keep in mind when they look at the numbers. What's an ongoing revenue and what's one time? For example, in arrears, the GEMT is worth $2.1 million, but that is a one-time type of revenue source. It can't be counted on year after year. And a good news is that with our CalPERS Employer Retirement Benefit Trust Fund, the retiree health care that everyone's putting into, we're close to the $6 million mark on that trust fund. So that's an excellent number, and we look forward to continuing that.
Thank you very much. Policy Committee, seeing that Director Pearson is not with us.
Nothing to report.
And so moving along then to board members' questions and comments. And we'll begin with Director Monk.
Thank you. I wanted to congratulate the firefighters that have graduated the academies, the single role paramedics that have came through the academies, all the returnees from layoffs that are back with the district. We welcome them back. and all the successful candidates from the captain's exams, and good luck to those people going through the battalion chief's exam. I appreciate the fact that a lot of our members of the district are seeking out higher positions in our organization. That says a lot for the future of our group. So congratulations to all those. And thanks to Roger Mitchell for his kind comments. The community out there appreciates all the work that we do, and we try and support the community wherever we can. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank Assemblyman Cooley for all of his work that he's done with regard to the Slough House refund. It's good to see that and have that issue put behind us. I still think it would be nice to have Channel 13 acknowledge that their original publication was not correct, but I don't know that I'll ever see that. The other thing, Chief, I know I mentioned this to you earlier, but I did get out to the sidewalk CPR at Sunrise Mall. It was a great event, and I think we hit our goal of 500 people, teaching them in a 4-hour span, teaching 500 people CPR. Captain Item was out there with her usual big smile. Her crew that she had out there, paramedic Rick Walker, engineer Hayden, firefighter Pham, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with the names, paramedic Zalutsky, and paramedic Schindler and McCord all deserve some commendation. The 4 hours they were out there without any lunch, I was out there at the end of their day at close to 3 o'clock, and they all still had a huge smile. They were great interacting, people from all ages. I saw teenagers all the way up to people older than me out there enjoying their experience. So it was a great experience and a great time, and I know Sunrise said they wanted to have them back. So it was a great community outreach, and everyone deserves to be commended for their effort.
Thank you.
You? Older than me?
So there were people Director Scheidegger's age? I was just, please, Director Scheidegger.
On their knees learning CPR, yes. They were doing great.
Please.
Mr. President, thank you. I just want to thank Captain Item for the director's cut. I find that to be very helpful, very informative. Sometimes I miss a story that's of local note, and it's very helpful to get that. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Director Clark.
I'd like to thank everyone for their presentations. And I also want to thank the men and women of this organization for the excellent job that they do day in and day out. I also like to caution the public at large. We're in the fire season now. Our resources are strained. Just urge caution out there with fires. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Director Kelly.
Mr. Chairman, I think everybody's said it pretty eloquently so far. I would just urge everybody to have gratitude because there's many reasons to have gratitude. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Jones.
Thank you. Nothing to add to the collective wisdom.
With that, I'd like to express my appreciation to Assemblyman Cooley for his efforts. It's important to note that while it sounds bizarre, there actually are good reasons for that piece of legislation, the original piece of legislation, and it's quite a feat to get an exemption for it. So thank you for all of his efforts. Moving then, we're going to move now into closed session.
Yes, ma'am. I've been bringing it out as son.
Dude.
A growler. It's a
Yeah.
growler.
You obviously asked the wrong person.
Track seven. I bought into yeah. You.
Yeah, Colin's been here now. All right, you could follow us this way.
Do you want me to do anything for you?